Q&A. Yeah. So, if the audience wants to ask any questions, we've been listening intently, of course.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's a very interesting talk by everybody. I just wanted to know, we heard of space. I mean, space we have done so well. So how much of it is military? How much of it is civil? Not clear.
So, see, so first of all, what we are trying to do in space is that even though India, technology-wise, is very advanced, the overall economic sector, space sector in India still is very small. It's only about $8 billion. Whereas globally it is $450 billion. India is only $8 billion, right? So we are trying to grow this sector by bringing in more private sector players to come in. So far, space is only a ISRO domain. And those of you who are investors may want to think about investing in space companies because there will be some unicorns very soon. Right now, the most highest valued company, I'm not talking the L&Ts and all, I'm talking those space startup, is only about 200 million. And I think in about 1.5, 2 years, you'll see the first unicorn. So coming back to your question, there's a lot that's happening in defense, right? Everything that ISRO does, the defense almost gets the first priority. There are satellites that are launched, what we call strategic users. We don't call it defense, strategic users, which are not, the data of that is also very confidential. It does not go to the same route. Defense has its own setup of analyzing the data, and the kind of information that they get from space is mind-boggling. I mean, I would have never imagined that till I started working for Department of Space. They know everything about China or about all their neighbors. China knows more about India than India knows about China. But there's so much information that is available. And space plays a huge role in preparing ourselves to ensure that we are not vulnerable. I cannot say that too much more, but rest assured that India is leveraging the space technology in a very, very big way for defense.
This question is for Mr. Goenka. Two questions actually. How is it working with Mr. Anand Mahindra? I think he's really very, very well known all over the world and everything, right from a sense of humor, everything. That's one. Also, when you set up your first vehicle assembly plant in Sri Lanka, I think you did that in
Sri Lanka?
In Sri Lanka, 2018 or 19.
Yeah.
So how was it? I mean, it's don't have to tell me everything, but how did you decide to be in a place like Sri Lanka? Because technically, it's like a small island nation, and assembly, and all of that. Thank you.
So the second question is easier to answer than the first one. Second one, see, Sri Lanka for Mahindra is the second largest international market, okay? And therefore it made, and Sri Lanka has very high import duty on CBU. But large companies will never think of setting up a plant there because they need much bigger volume. The agility that an Indian company would have, something that we can do that a multinational will not do. And therefore, in fact, we were delayed 4 to 5 years. I wanted to set it up much sooner. And that gave us a very big advantage of being able to sell vehicles in Sri Lanka at a much lower cost, right? And we did it through a distributor in Sri Lanka. And I think that worked out very well for Mahindra because later on, Sri Lanka almost banned import of built-up vehicles. And Mahindra was the only car company that has set up a plant, assembly plant in Sri Lanka. So that worked out well for us. Now, working with Mr. Anand Mahindra can only be described as having a dream boss, okay? If you just think of, I'll tell you something. Think of automotive industry professionals. How many professionals do you know who come in the news, are visible, and are sort of known? Very few. Look at Mahindra. You would have never seen Anand Mahindra in a big launch interacting with the media. He will always put Pawan Goenka in front. Right? He didn't have to. Even if I forced him to come for a launch, he will give his speech, and before media comes to him, goes away. He told me, Pawan, if I am there, they'll all want to talk to me, not to you. And I don't want that to happen. Right? So that just gives you an example of the way he works. Very hands-off. Okay? We could do a M&A, and he will come to know about it on the day we are signing. And a very right-brained person. So it was kind of seen that Anand and Pawan complement each other because Pawan is totally left-brain, Anand is completely right-brain. Both statements are not true. He is more left than right. He is more left than people think he is, and I'm more right than people think I am. but a good compliment all the same. I think he built an organization with values that obviously he inherited from his uncle and his father, Kesab and Harish Mahindra, and he never let that slip. And one of the few promoters in India of large groups where professionals were in the front. No matter which company you look at, whether you look at Tech Mahindra, Mahindra Finance, Mahindra and Mahindra, any company, all the professionals of Mahindra are reasonably well known. Very few promoter groups will have that happen.
I have a question. I consider to be very privileged to be with 4 brilliant minds of the country in this room. And I think it's more addressed to Mr. Goenka, and the rest of you can also answer. PM has identified some brilliant minds. How do you see the country being taken as a leadership from the vision of the PM? By the PM.
You are the best person to ask.
I think our time is up, right? So look, it's a very difficult question for anyone to answer, especially at 10 p.m. on a Saturday after a few drinks. But let me tell you, since I have had opportunity to interact with him directly, he is definitely a person driven. Okay, you can agree, disagree with anything, and I'm not trying to take any political side, but nobody can disagree that he truly wants to see India become great. That you cannot disagree with, right? And he has no personal agenda except to leave a legacy behind where the history will remember him, right? Other than that, he has no other personal agenda. Right? Now, I had 2 one-on-one meetings with him after I took this role. And I'll give you a couple of instances that shows the humbleness of a man who is normally regarded as not being very humble, right? So the first meeting that took place, for some reason, it was delayed by half an hour. So as I walked in, the first thing he says is, Goenka ji, मैंने आपको इंतजार कराया, उसके लिए माफी मांगता हूँ. Now, would anybody think that Mr. Modi will talk like that to an employee of the government? I'm an employee of the government at that point of time, right? Second thing he says is, मेरे कहने से आपने ये काम लिया है, उसके लिए धन्यवाद. Again, okay? And as I'm leaving, okay, he says, Goenka ji, आपने जो काम लिया है, अगर ये आप इस काम में सफल होते हैं, तो पूरा देश आपको धन्यवाद देगा. Now, can you imagine the motivation that it can create to any person for the Prime Minister to say the whole country is going to thank you for doing this task, right? And when I talked to him during the conversation, I'm meeting for the first time one-on-one, right? And the people had told me that it will be very sort of courtesy meeting, don't expect more than 10 minutes, lasted 40 minutes. He talked about everything. At that time, the farm unrest was going on. So I told him that, sir, farm में space technology का काफ़ी use है. बोले गोयनका जी, कुछ नहीं हो सकता है. जब तक हम farms को combine नहीं करेंगे, छोटे छोटे farm रहेंगे, कभी कुछ नहीं हो सकता है. मैंने ये farm laws लाए हैं, अभी देखिए आप political इसमें फंस गए. Right? So again, his understanding of this issue couldn't have been briefed to him. That was not subject of a conversation. It just came up. So any subject that came up, I was quite taken by his understanding of this thing. And in fact, I asked the PMO staff that do you brief him before a meeting, because he talked so much about space, which is not something that a PM will be thinking about day in, day out, right? So he said, yes, we do brief him, but that's only for our satisfaction that we are doing our work. Even if he didn't brief him, he will still be equally versatile in talking about this. Okay. So having said that, see, clearly he is trying to get talent from outside government to come in the government, right? And if you look at some of the ministers that he has brought in, like West now, for example, and some of the IAS officers who have become ministers, like our foreign affairs minister, nobody will disagree that these are the best performing ministers right now, people that is brought in from outside, right? In fact, when I was hesitating whether to take this job or not, because I really didn't want to work full time at this point of time, and especially with my office going to be in Ahmedabad and me living in Mumbai. So the guy who was trying to convince me from PM's office, he doesn't have any portfolio. He doesn't have any job description. He told me that, Goenka ji, if you had said yes, you wouldn't even know I existed. Because you have said no, I had said no once, I'm calling you, okay? And then he also said that this is an experiment. And your success in this job is as important to us as to you, because if you don't succeed, everybody will be lining up saying, I told you so. You cannot bring people from outside the government to work in the government. And if you succeed, then we create more like you in the government, right? So again, this is like, see, bureaucracy is very strong. You know that very well, right? And nobody would like an outsider to suddenly come in and do what they should be doing. And therefore, so fighting the bureaucracy even for him is a task, right? And that's what he's trying to do with all the experiments that he's doing. He's gotten somebody in Invest India to lead Invest India from Intel, MD, CEO of Intel India. So a lot of such things are going on. Effort is being made. But again, these are like 3, 4, 5 people who have come in. The joint secretaries who came in once, about half a dozen from outside. That experiment didn't work very well. The bureaucracy didn't allow them to really survive. So I would think that 5 more years of Modi, or 5 more years of BJP are more or less given, right? That will for sure happen. Whether Modi will stick to his 75-year age limit, in which case he has to stop in the middle of the term somewhere. I hope he finds a way of getting around that statement he has made. I think if country gets 6 more years of Mr. Modi as Prime Minister, and I would think that in the next term, he would perhaps be more aggressive, because he knows that's the last term for him for sure. He'll be more aggressive, and many things that he politically could not do, he probably would do. And his very good support. Let me also tell you that when BJP came in power in 2014, right? I got very worried in my professional situation, because I knew many Congress ministers very well, and I didn't know anybody in BJP. And my concern was that BJP doesn't really have administrative experience, right? And how will these people run the government? But today, if you look at the top 6 or 7 ministers, I think they're very well-performing ministers. You look at Piyush Goyal, who I interact with quite a bit. Every day, his day ends at 10:30. It's not once or twice, every day, okay? He goes home at 10:30, eats dinner, then he and his wife watches TV. They watch TV from 12 o'clock for some time, get up at 6:37, do yoga, and then start the day. and you talk to him at 9, 9:30, he will be as fresh as he will be at 10 a.m. in the morning. And he is not an exception. That's how many, many ministers are working. You look at Mr. Gadkari. He's the main driven. Right? Nobody can question that the way he has developed the road infrastructure. I don't think anybody else would have done it. And this is like janoon hai unko. If you go and talk to him, again, I had a lot of opportunity to talk to him for my automotive business. He told me, Mr. Goenka, I just want to do two things. My very beginning. I want to reduce the road deaths by half. And I don't want India to have to import a single drop of oil. That's superordinate goal. That's superordinate goal, right? So, like that, everyone, I've seen top ministers are like that. Of course, you know, all the political ministers, they'll be there, you can't help it. But anyways, as I said, it can take forever.
One last question somebody had waiting for some time, and then we'll have to close because dinner is waiting.
Yeah, this is a question for KB sir. Sir, what did your senior Mr. Rai do to keep you with L&T for more than 33 years and not thinking?
What did you say?
What did your senior Mr. Nair do to keep you with L&T? Mr. Naik do to keep you with L&T for 33 years and before ESOPs were introduced?
What's your name, beta?
Akhilesh Singhal.
What do you do?
We are a metal recycling company. I'm working in that. Yes.
As Pawan said, first, you know, I always jokingly say, you have to make some... I worked 49 years, 5 months in L&T. Yeah? 5 months. Only Mr. Naik has worked longer. Okay, he worked, I think, 52 or something. So first thing is, as I said, you have to first have a passion on something. And in my case, at least like Pawan, all of us, when we passed out those days, it was before the IIM Ahmedabad and all that. So we were engineers, you know. And as he said, it was Tata's, Telco, L&T, few companies only were there. And as I said, when I joined L&T, you know, we were all IIT boys. We were staying together in paying guests. So that time L&T used to say, Larsen & Toubro Engineers Limited. We were excited. But when we went to L&T, abhi to 1000 gaadi hai. वो ज़माने में पोवाई में 3 गाड़ी था, and we used to see all these fellows suited, booted. अरे ये सा damages and managers unlimited. So basically, first you had a passion, okay. Then, as he said, you would have very good bosses. Like he talked of Mr. Anand Mahindra, we had Ho Class and many other bosses, and Mr. Naik. So first of all, you have to feel that you know you are doing something great. And building, you know, not only yourself, juniors. So basically, I think thoda pagal hona banta hai. There's no, like he said, he came down from there to there. That if you see the type of salary I was getting in L&T and what I was going to get in Union Carbide, and then later on so much attractions to go to Middle East and many. So you have to be a little bad. So only great companies are built by people who stay. No other way great companies are built. And finally, you have to see that what you're doing is making some great impact, you know. And the sabashi you get. And you have to be, all of us are middle class fellows only. So we were happy eating in Radio Punjab. You know, the first time I went to a Chinese restaurant, Dr. Rameyer, who was that time in Power Gas, he took our family. We couldn't afford to go to a Chinese restaurant. We traveled in 3 tires. We traveled in that 4 limited bus sitting on the top. My wife used to make a sandwich. And then in the theater, people would say, hey, bite. And then I would tell them, bhai, itna lamba ho, kya karu main baita hu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Akhilesh. Okay, do you want the mic to come over there?
No, last question. Rajiv is last one.
And then...
I have a question for Prakash. We'll take offline. No, the question is basically, what curve is cybersecurity becoming so much important for corporates and for all of us who are, daily digitization and whatnot. So in that context, where does India feature in terms of global? What stage of the curve that India is on the cybersecurity?
If you look at the last 3 years, there's a lot of remarkable changes have come in this technology. One is work from anywhere culture. So work from home, work from anywhere has forced the companies to migrate their application to the cloud, inevitably. Number two is the embracement of the e-commerce, e-health, doctors, online, consultation, everything you name it has gone into the. Today we do the cybersecurity for NPCI is about 8 crore transactions. 440 banks on board, So one is the work from anywhere, cloud migration, faster digitization, and now the 5G, which is edge speed of 500 megs and higher. So that will enable further digitization in terms of the IoT and OT. I wear this device called, I don't know if anybody knows Woof. No? It's good, you should go online and do it. Woof is Woof 4. It's an IoT. It measures the, respiration, 24 hours. It measures the pulse 40, 50 times per minute. Heart. It measures the rest heart rate, RHR, when you're sleeping. That's very critical. And it measures HRV, heart rate variable, that is between the two pulses. I mean, those who doctors knows it, right? And respiration, oxygen. So, if one wears it, it will tell you in advance that go get COVID test done. So, only thing missing is a small implant somewhere in your bloodstream so that blood chemistry, blood electrolytes can be fed through, and then everything is done. Then you don't need doctors around. This will be like a companion as a doctor around. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is the amount of data, the surface area have increased in terms of the reach. So that means more vulnerable to the threats, more ransomware. That means people come in, can lock in your data and then deal in the bitcoins. Because that's why bitcoins are expensive. Because that's how it's a currency. And third is obviously the malware. So all these are the threat. So surface has gone up. So it's a. Yeah. There is no boundary. Yeah. The highest is like a CIS country, Russia and all that. Brazil is one of the top. China is one. Good. So if you come to our center, you will see how we have a globe and the attacks are flowing in, like a rocket's flying in. You can see.
Thank you, sir. That's very
Thank you.
I call Mr. Lalit Vashisht to say a word of thanks.